The highlight of this week, ladies and gentlemen, has been the Makkah al-Mukarramah Summit for Joint Defense held on 7th August 2026, bringing together the leaderships of Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. The Makkah Joint Defense Agreement, which you all covered extensively, reflects the three nations' commitment to further strengthen their collective security and promoting peace, security, and stability in the region and beyond. This agreement is a natural step in the long-standing brotherly relations among the three countries, and it displays our resolve for sharing the burden of regional peace and security. The agreement is purely defensive in nature and allows unified efforts to confront threats and security challenges to the member states. In his message on the 10th of August on this agreement, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, Senator Mohammad Ishaq Dar warmly facilitated the nation on signing of this agreement, describing it as a historic milestone. The DPM underscored that under the leadership of Prime Minister Mohammad Shahbaz Sharif, Chief of Defence Forces Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir, and the Foreign Office under his own leadership, Pakistan played a pivotal role in bringing this historic Makkah Accord to fruition. He commended their leadership in safeguarding Pakistan's national interest and strengthening strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan remains engaged alongside our brotherly states in sincere efforts to resolve the crisis in the Middle East and the Gulf. Pakistan is making all-out efforts to bring the two parties to negotiating table, Islamabad MOU, and pave the way for peace and stability in the region. Pakistan will continue to offset spoilers using direct and indirect channels and enable continuation of constructive dialogue to resolve all outstanding issues. And in the context of our peace efforts, on August 10th, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister held telephone conversations with Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Kuwait. So these were three conversations in one day. With the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, Prince Faisal bin Farhan, the DPM discussed bilateral and multilateral cooperation, regional developments, and the importance of close coordination. And in his conversation with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi the same day, the two leaders exchanged views on regional and international developments, efforts to promote peace and stability, and the Makkah Joint Defense Agreement. He also spoke with the Kuwaiti Foreign Minister, Sheikh Jarrah Jabir Al Ahmad Al Sabah, with discussion focusing on the Makkah Agreement, regional development, Pakistan-Kuwait relations, and the follow-up of the visit of the Foreign Minister of Kuwait, particularly in the context of enhanced bilateral cooperation and investments. And on August 11th, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister spoke with the Bahraini Foreign Minister, Dr. Abdul Latif bin Rashid Al Zayani, who congratulated him on the signing of the Makkah Defense Agreement and expressed his intention to visit Pakistan. DPM welcomed the proposed visit and reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to dialogue and diplomacy for regional peace and stability. Ladies and gentlemen, Federal Minister for Interior, Mr. Mohsin Naqvi, is visiting Tehran these days for meeting with senior officials, Irani officials. His visit provides an opportunity to discuss bilateral relations, security-related matters, regional developments, with a particular focus on efforts to promote peace, stability, and constructive engagement amongst the parties in the region and regional developments. Ladies and gentlemen, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, Senator Mohammad Ishaq Dar remained actively engaged in the diplomatic outreach, including important bilateral telephone conversations with his counterparts and other international leaders. On August 9th, he spoke with the Canadian Foreign Minister, Ms. Anita Anand. They exchanged views on regional developments, including the recently signed Mecca agreement and the evolving situation in the US-Iran context. The situation in Palestine, particularly East Jerusalem, was also discussed, and they agreed to remain actively engaged in their bilateral interactions. On the same day, the DPM spoke with the Foreign Minister of Senegal, Mr. Sheikh Niang. The two ministers expressed their commitment to further strengthening Pakistan-Senegal bilateral relations and furtherance of all issues on mutual interest. They agreed to enhance ongoing cooperation and coordination at multilateral forum, particularly at the United Nations. The Deputy Foreign Minister also held a telephone conversation with President Felix Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo and former President of Guinea-Bissau, Umaro Sissoco Embalo, on the 10th of August. He briefed them on the contours and significance of the Mecca Agreement and its role in strengthening regional peace and security. He also discussed the importance of furtherance of Pakistan DRC relations, including through high-level exchanges. Pakistan and New Zealand, ladies and gentlemen, held two important dialogues. One was the bilateral political consultations led by our Additional Secretary for Asia Pacific, Ambassador Ali Asad Gilani, and the second was the Joint Trade Committee meeting led by Secretary Commerce, Mr. Jawad Paul. This on political consultations. This was the third round. This was the third round of the Joint Trade Committee meeting. The two sides covered bilateral relations, explored avenues of enhanced cooperation in economic development, in science, technology, education, counterterrorism, and people-to-people contact. They agreed to enhance mutual cooperation on all multilateral forums, particularly the United Nations. At the Joint Trade Committee meeting, the sides discussed strengthening bilateral trade and investment, particularly agriculture, livestock, information technology, education, and service. Importantly, the two sides discussed cooperation in sustainable agriculture, wool production, and plant protection. A key outcome of the visit was the signing of an education cooperation arrangement between Pakistan and New Zealand aimed at deepening collaboration in education sector and further enhancing education ties and ties between the students and educational institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, with this I conclude my opening statement.